2, 3, 1, and open the second time. The program coordinator, Peter. Welcome, Salima.
Thank you, Wissam.
Today's presentation is about brain development in children and teens, تطور الدماغ عند الأطفال والمراهقين, both Arabic and English. This episode will be available on the podcasts of all the schools at GS Academies and also on all their Facebook and YouTube accounts. Before that, I'd like to let you know that we have published the school calendar for 2024-2025. Should be in your email inbox or in the school social media. You can find it there, and also you can find it on the school website under parents. And also, I would like to let you know that today it was the last day for the book fair at Star International Academy and Universal Learning Academy. So I hope that you've enjoyed that book fair, and thank you for all those who purchased and helped secure more material for the libraries of the schools. So without further ado, Salima.
Thank you so much, Wissam. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. As Wissam said, it will be a bilingual presentation. We will talk about brain development in children and teens. What is brain development, how to enhance a positive brain development, why we should pay attention about the brain cells, how it affects the development of the brain of the teens and the kids. So أهلا وسهلا فيكم جميعا. اليوم حنحكي عن نمو الدماغ عند الأطفال والمراهقين. ليش نمو الدماغ مهم وشو ممكن يأثر نمو الدماغ على التطور والحركة الدماغ عند الأطفال والمراهقين. So first of all, we want to start with children's brain development. How does this children's brain develop? It depends on how the genes they're born, and then the genes that they're born with, they interact with the experience that they have in life. So they are combined together with the genes and then the experiences that they go through their life, and then the things that they learn from it, how you teach them as a parent, and then it has like a brain development for our kids. So إذا ما نحكي أول شيء هلأ عن نمو دماغ الأطفال، كيف بتعتمد نمو دماغ الأطفال هي أو كيف تتطور أدمغة الأطفال، هي بتتطور على كيفية تفاعل الجينات. نحن بنعرف إنه كل الأولاد بتخلق بجينات معينة، ولكن اللي بيأثر عليها أكتر إنه كيف بيولدوا بهيدي الجينات والتجارب اللي بيخوضوها واللي بيمتلكوها مع هيدي الجينات كيف ممكن تأثر على نمو الدماغ عند الطفل. So as we know, there's different parts in the brain. It's in the kids, in teens, and adults, and all people. We have the brain stem. We will go through them. The cerebellum, the prefrontal cortex. So these are the parts of the brain that affect the development of the brain and the brain cells. So first of all, if you want to start with the brain stem, what is the brain stem? This brain stem is fully developed at birth. So when the child is fully developed, and this part of the brainstem is responsible for survival functions such as blood pressure, heart rate, body temperature. So this part of the brain, it impact these parts of the body in the kids body shape, which is the blood. It controls the blood pressure, works on the heart rate and the body temperature. So مثل ما نحن بنعرف انه نحن في عنا اجزاء مختلفه بالدماغ. الجزء السفلي الاعلى والنص ومن قدام، هودي وجزء الدماغ. هودي هلا حنمرق فيهم بالبرزنتيشن. فاذا بنبلش باول شيء جذع الدماغ، هو هيدا الجذع الدماغ هو بيكون بيتطور وبيكتمل عند الولاده، بيكون كامل عند الولاده. وهيدا الجزء من الدماغ هو بيكون مسؤول بيتحكم بضغط الدم، بدقات القلب، وبحراره الجسم. The second part is the cerebellum. The cerebellum, it controls a person's automatic movements. So it controls the balance, such as we'll notice dancing, kicking a football, bringing a cup to the lip to drink. So these are all the movements that control the movements of the kid. So you're noticing your kid while he's walking, sometimes he needs balance. So you notice sometimes he put his hands on the table to be balanced, to make this control. So the part of the brain which is responsible for the control and the brain cell of our kids is the cerebellum. So الجزء الثاني من الدماغ اللي هو بيتحكم كمان بتطور الدماغ هو المخيخ. المخيخ هذا بيكون بيتحكم بحركات الشخص التلقائية والتوازن، يعني مثل التوازن بالرأس، بالمشي، إذا بده يلعب بالطابة يشوط الطابة قدامه، أو إنه يجيب كوباية المي ويحطها على شفافه ويشربها. سو هيدي كلها من الحركات اللي عم بتعود على التوازن، فهذا بيجي من الجزء من الدماغ اللي اسمه المخيخ. The second part is the midbrain. This midbrain, it controls sleep, responses, appetite, motor movements such as running and skipping. So every part in the brain, it has a different function and it's responsible for other things. So كل هلا بنيجي نحن عن الدماغ المتوسط. الدماغ المتوسط هو بيتحكم بالنوم، بالاستجابة، كيف ممكن الشخص أو الولد يستجيب لنا نحن وعم نحكي معه، أو ردات فعل معينة ممكن يتعرض لها، الشهية إن كان فرط شهية أو شهية زايدة، الحركات الحركية يعني مثل الركض، الجري، المشي، الهرولة، التخطي، القفز، هذه كلها بيعتمد على مرحلة الدماغ المتوسط. So the limbic system, this is another part also of the brain. This limbic system, it controls the emotion and long-term memories. That's why we notice if our kid or our teen, they go through difficult problems or through tantrums, we notice that sometimes it's not easy for them to forget the things that they're going through because these are attached to the memories in the brain cell. So the part of the limbic system is involved in attaching emotions to memory. That's why it's attached, and we notice that sometimes our kids, till now, maybe for us as a parents, we remember things that we go through when we were young. That's why it's in our memories and the emotion part in the limbic system in the brain. الجهاز الثاني اللي عم نحكي عنه بتطور نمو الدماغ بعدنا عم نحكي عند الأطفال هو الجهاز الحوفي. هذا الجهاز الحوفي هو بيتحكم بالعواطف والذكريات طويلة المدى. عشان هيك بنلاحظ إنه الولد إذا عم بيمرق بشيء معين مش ممكن ينساه بسهولة، أو يمكن يعمل له مثل ردة فعل أو يعمل له مثل حاجز معين، لأنه هذا كان هو خلص it's stuck in the brain. So هي معلقة بقلب الدماغ ومش ممكن الشخص ينساها، فممكن تعمل له ردات فعل مختلفة. فعشان هيك هيدا الجزء من الجهاز الحوفي هو بيساعد بربط العواطف بالذاكرة. The cortex, it's also a part of the brain. The different regions of the cortex are responsible for different functionings, different processing, like it's responsible for vision, touch, hearing, speech, language development, problem solving. So sometimes if there's a kid, they have difficulties in something, even in vision, in listening, in hearing. So this affects the part of the cortex brain. النوع الثاني من الجهاز بالدماغ بين أعضاء أجزاء الدماغ اللي هو الكورتكس، القشرة. هيدا هو مسؤول عن كل شيء بيتفاعل، إن كان من النظر، من اللمس، من السمع، من الحكي، الخطاب، إن كان كمان التطورات اللغوية اللي ممكن تصير معاه أو طريقة حل المشكلات. So that's why we should, every part in the brain, it has a different function, and we should be real and see these functioning, how our kids, they are going through. Like sometimes we notice that there's some kids, you have to teach them or to talk to them more than one time to understand, which is something normal because every kid is different from the other. And this depends also on the parts of the brain. عشان هيك اوقات نحن بنلاحظ انه في عنا اولاد ممكن نحن بتاخد منا جهد اكثر من اولاد تاني، يعني بنحاول نحكي معهم اكثر من مره. في اولاد ما بتسمع الكلمه من اول مره، which is هذا الشيء طبيعي. في اولاد طبعا بتسمع من اول مره، في اولاد لا، في اولاد ما بتكون منتبهه معنا ومركزه معنا، في اولاد بتكون منتبهه من اول مره. هذا الشيء بيأثر على طبيعه الولد اللي نحن عنا اياه. So how does children brain develop? The more the brain is stimulated, the faster it becomes and stronger connections become. So the more that we are talking to our kids, we are exploring them to the nature, we are playing with them, we are reading stories for them, we are giving them these opportunities, the more that we are letting their brain to function more and become more stronger. So if the brain is not stimulated, the connection between the cells dry up. So just imagine it like you're not talking with your kid, you're not connecting with them, you're not knowing what they're doing, what their day look like. It's definitely, it will affect their brain development also, because you're not helping them, because the kid is still small, is still young, they don't know how to discover the nature or the word that that they have. So this thing depends on us as a parent. Sometimes you don't, as a parents, we feel like more stressed, like we have to do more things for them. But believe me, for kids, if you put them in nature outside, just to sensory activities, touching the grass, playing with the mud, jumping on the water, these are the things that improve their sensory and their brain development cells. And that build a connection with us as parents. And at the same time, it will lead to our kids to be more creative and less boring. So كيف كمان بتتطور أدمغة الأطفال عنا؟ كل ما بيتم تحفيز هذا الدماغ عند الطفل، كل ما أنا بشجع، كل ما أنا بعطي opportunities، كل ما أنا عطول عم بحاول يضل في عندهم وقتهم مشغول، كل ما أصبحت الاتصالات والعلاقات أسرع وأقوى. وكل ما أدمغة أجهزة الأدمغة الخلايا تبع الدماغ كل ما صارت صلبة وأقوى أكثر. إذا ما تم تحفيز هيدي الخلايا والأدمغة فرح تجف هيدي الروابط والخلايا عند الولد. أوقات ممكن نحن نحس إنه نحس حالنا شوي مضغوطين أكتر إنه ما عم نقدر نعطي أطفالنا الوقت الكافي. بس صدقوني يمكن إذا الجو أو الطقس كان حلو خلينا الولد يطلع شوي لبرا يلعب بالحشيش بالتراب يشوف يسقي معنا الزراعات، هيدي القصص بتحرك الحواس وبتحفز الدماغ وبتخلي الولد إنه يصير أكتر مثل يبتكر وما يزهق، بضل عنده شيء مشغول فيه. فنحن كل ما قوينا هيدا الشيء وكل ما زدنا على هيدا الولد، كل ما حاولنا انه كل ما نحن عم نساعد بتطوير الدماغ عنده. So as we said, the more connection between the brain cells is the better. So the more I talk, the more I create, the more I play, the more I have the opportunities for my kid, the more the brain cells are growing better and they're developing better. These connections are forming the structure that will allow a child to learn. That's why we say like the first 2-3 years as a parent, try not to put your kid a lot on TV, technology, phones, iPads. Let them go out, discover, because they are learning, they are creating, they are discovering these new things, because they're just watching. If you notice, like you're putting them on computers, iPads, they're just watching, sitting, and their brain is stuck. That's why also these things affect the brain cells. Reading stories, going outside for a walk, play with them with simple things. These are the more helpful things for your kids for their brain development. So إذا نحن ما نحكي هلا كل ما ازدادت الخلايا أو كل ما ازدادت الروابط بين خلايا الدماغ كل ما كان هذا الشيء أفضل. So هيدا الروابط بتشكل هيدا الروابط الهياكل اللي بتسمح للطفل انه يتعلم. فعشان هيك نحن بننصح انه باول المراحل العمريه من 2-3 انه الولد ما يتعرض كثير لشاشات التلفزيون او لوسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، ان كان من التليفون من الايباد من هالقصص، لانه هيدي اوقات بتعرقل عمليه تطور الدماغ. إنه إحنا نلاحظ إنه بس حاطين الولد على التلفزيون والشاشات اللي بسرعة عم تمرق قدامه وعم بتأثر على خلايا الدماغ وعم تمرق بشكل كتير سريع، فهون عقل الولد هو صغير ما حيقدر يتحمل كل هيدا الكم اللي هو عم يوصل له. طالما بيطلع لبرا بشم هوا نقي، بحاول يلمس القصص، بحاول يتطلع برا يكتشف، هيدي كلها من القصص اللي بتساعد على تطور الدماغ بشكل أفضل. So we're still talking about the children's brain develop. So the brain of the baby is still forming connections responsible for feeling, learning, and remembering. So they're not born and they know all the feelings. They're not remembering everything. They're learning. So most of the synapses that are critical to learning form after birth. So all these creativity or these experiences or these learning things, they have them after they get birth, after they go outside, after you have this connection with them. So هذا الدماغ تبع الطفل هو بشكل روابط مسؤولة عن الشعور والتعلم والتذكر. So معظم من النقاط الاشتباك العصبي اللي بتعتبر حاسمة للتعلم هي بتصير بعد الولادة. So if you want to talk about feeling expressions, expressing feelings, if you want to talk about connections, learning, speaking, all of these things, the kids the babies, they are getting them after birth and during their first 3, 4, 5 years. This is how it has this bind and you can create a good connection and the brain development memory cells. سو هيدا كله الشغل بيصير بعد ما انه الولد يخلق وبعد ما نحن نكون سمحنا له وعطينا له هذا المجال لحتى نحن نشكل تطور دماغ بخلايا سليمة وصحية. So it is through the development of synapses that the brain develop a functional agriculture. So without this, there would be no habits, no thoughts, no consciousness, no memories, and no mind. So we have to put our effort to create them this brain development. We should learn them we should let them live their life to have memories, and we should be conscious, we should be connecting with them, we should use the speech, the development varieties for our kids because to help their brain development at the same time. So من خلال هذا الاشتباك العصبي بيتطور الدماغ بيطور الدماغ بنية وظيفية. So بصير الدماغ يعرف يشتغل بشكل فعال. بلا هود القصص ما حيصير في عنده الولد عادات ولا أفكار ولا وعي ولا ذكريات ولا عقل ولا شيء، لأنه نحن ما عم نبني ونجهز هذا التطور للدماغ تبعه. So we all know that sometimes we talk about a lot violence, loud voice, how does it affect us? Affect your kid's brain. It does affect the violence and the stress. It affect our kids' brain. Like abusive experience can increase the risk of developing behaviors ranging from aggression, failure, language, depression, mental disorder, diabetes, asthma, high blood pressure, immune system dysfunction. So that's why, as I talked before, like these the parts of the brain, everything that kids go through, it affects each part of the brain which is responsible about each function in their body. So let's say, for example, the loud voice, maybe sometimes it will affect their confidence. They're not able to talk, to communicate, and this also will affect while they're going to school, dealing with talking with their teachers, with their friends, where they are teenagers, they have bad communication, they can't express their feelings. All of these things are like from the day one you start getting birth, from day one you have this child, you should be responsible, you should be aware about every feeling, every word you're talking to him, because you are creating this creature. This child, it comes to you as a blank white paper and you are putting in this paper. That's why you should be conscious and aware about how you are dealing with this kid, because it's affecting, you're building this personality. So إذا أوقات ممكن نحن نقول بنسمع كتير إنه ممكن تزيد التجارب المسيئة من خطر تطوير سلوكيات معينة، وممكن يأثر العنف والضغط والصوت العالي يأثر على شخصية الولد. لأنه مثل ما قلنا نحن بنستلم هذا الولد من أول نهار، هو بيكون صفحة بيضاء. أنا كأهل أنا اللي عم بزرع في العادات والتقاليد والمهارات، وعم بساعده بتطوير الدماغ تبعه. ممكن يأثر، يصير في عنده عصبية زايدة، فشل الحوار، الكلام، الضغط، الكآبة، الصحة العقلية والنفسية تكون شوي مزغزغة. ممكن يأثر على السكري، ربو، ضغط عالي، جهاز المناعي يكون ما كتير عم بيشتغل. فهذه كلها من القصص بتأثر على تطور الدماغ، لأنه مثل ما حكينا قبل إنه نحن الولد عنده، نحن كبشر عنا أجزاء من الدماغ، وكل جزء من الدماغ هو بيأثر على نوع معين. مثل ما قلنا مثلا إذا أنا بعيط ممكن بعدين الولد يأثر هذا الشيء على طريقة الحكي، على يعبر عن مشاعره، ما يقدر يحكي شو بوه. ممكن يأثر بعدين هذا الشيء مع رفقاته، مع معلماته بالمدرسة، ما يكون عنده ثقة بنفسه إنه يحكي شو بده. فلهذه الدرجة هي ممكن تأثر هذه القصص على تطور الدماغ وعلى الشخصية. Also, another point about how violence and stress can affect on kids' brain. So, abuse experience organize the million of constantly active connections between brain cells into disease networks. So, هيدي تنظم التجارب المسيئة أو العنف اللي ممكن يصير ملايين الاتصالات النشطة باستمرار بين خلايا الدماغ بشبكات مريضة. So also the bad experience affect the brain primarily through stress hormones. So everything bad they go through, it affect the stress hormone in their body. So the stress hormone made them be anxious, depressed, loss of interest. They don't want to do anything in life. They always feel sad. They feel bored. And when these hormones are overactive because of persistent stressors, the terrorized genes set up irregular networks of connection between brain cells. So that's why you notice them. Sometimes your kids are going through tantrums. As I said, it also depends on the age. Your kids are always angry, fussy, they don't want to do anything, they're not acting normal. That's why sometimes it affect, like, let's say, notice if you yell at them or you shout, and then notice how they're acting towards you. So these are kinds of the stress and violence that can affect the child brain development. So التجارب المسيئة أيضا بتأثر على الدماغ بالمقام الأول من خلال شيء اسمه هرمونات التوتر. بتأثر على هرمونات التوتر، وهيدي بس تكون هيدي الهرمونات هي مفرطة النشاط. لأنه ليش بتصير مفرطة؟ نتيجة الضغوطات اللي هم بيتعرضوا لها، فبتنشئ هيدي الجينز والجينات شبكات غير منتظمة بالاتصالات بين خلايا الدماغ، فبصير الدماغ على طول مخربط مشوش. بنلاحظ الولد عم بيمرق بنوبات غضب، منه عم بيكون هادي، فهذه كلها بتأثر. So what every child needs to promote a children's brain development, to be healthy, positive, as usual, you will have these tantrums, these bad hormones, because this is life. You have ups and downs, you have problems. Not all days are without problems. But to be more effective and to be more aware about the brain development, so every child needs interaction, need love, need touch, safe, healthy environment, self-esteem, stable relationships, quality care, play, communication, music, reading, attention. They need these things from us as a parent, to help them be stable, responsible, positively, responsibly raised, and also their brain develop as well. So لحتى نعزز نمو الدماغ عند الطفل، كل طفل عنده احتياجات، وهيدي الاحتياجات اللي هو بده اياها هي بده يكون في عنا علاقة وطيدة بين بعض، اللمسة الحلوة، العطوفة، على علاقة متوازية بالبيت ومتوازنة، وعلاقة زوجية صحية، وعلاقة كلها مع بعض روابط عائلية صحية وسليمة، يكون بأمان، والبيئة المحيطة فيه تكون جيدة، الثقة بالنفس، اهتمام، الكمية والنوعية اللي عم نعطيها للولد، اللعب، التواصل، الحوار، الموسيقى، قراية القصص، هودي كلهم احتياجات الولد بده إياها منا لحتى يكون متوازن ومستقل وعارف حاله شو بده. So in this part, we will start about the teen's brain development, which is a little bit different from the baby's brain development, because we know that teens, the brain development, it's developing faster, and especially through the early 20s, the brain is undergoing more changes than any other time expect immediately after birth. So هلا ما نحكي هون عن نمو دماغ المراهقين اللي هي بتفرق شوي عن نمو دماغ الأطفال، لأنه نحن بنعرف إنه بمرحلة ما قبل المراهقة بمر الدماغ وحتى أوائل العشرين في تغيرات أكثر من أي وقت آخر باستثناء بعد الولادة مباشرة. So we know that the teens, they go through a lot, especially when they have problems. Sometimes as a parents, we notice, like, we'll talk to them like, okay, this is not a problem, you should take it easy. But towards our kids or our teens, it's a problem for them because it's something new they're going through. The life is introducing them to new problems. So that's why sometimes it's important to listen to them, to know what they are going through, to help them, because their brain sometimes can't handle these all emotions and feelings and problems that they're going through. So the biggest change in teens' brains are occurring in the brain prefrontal cortex. This prefrontal cortex, it's located right behind the forehead. So this part of the brain, it affects the brain development in the teens, and this cortex is executive, so it's affect the thinking of the teenagers, their ability to use logic, make good decision, and size up potential risks. So نمو دماغ المراهقين بيعتمد على منطقة من الدماغ يلي هي بنقوله الأمام الجبهي بالدماغ، يلي هي بتصير خلف الجبهة المباشرة. هيدي الاشياء هي بتتحكم بالتفكير التنفيذي، يعني قدرته للمراهق على استخدام المنطق، اتخاذ قرارات جيدة، تقدير المخاطر المحتملة إذا بيعمل هيدا الشيء ولا لا. نحن بدنا نحاول إنه نحن نفهم هيدا المراهق، لأنه نحن عادة كأهل بتطلع مننا أوقات لا إراديا إنه أوكي الله يجعلها أكبر المصايب بهذا الشيء اللي عم تمرق فيه، بس ولكن نحن لازم ناخد بعين الاعتبار إنه المراهق بعده عم بيعيش هيدي الحياة الجديدة، عم بيتعرض لمشاكل، عم بيتعرض لمشاعر أول مرة بحسها ما عم بيفهمها. فنحن لازم نحتضن هذا المراهق لحتى نساعده يحسن هيدي الأفكار ونساعده يتخطى هيدي المشاكل اللي هو عم بيمرق فيه. So the teen's brain is freshly reshaping itself by pruning neural connections. It connected during neurons at the rate of 30,000 per second. So الدماغ تبع المراهق عم بشكل نفسه بشكل محموم عن طريق تقليم هيدي الروابط العصبية بمعدل 30,000 بالثانية. So these connections are very important in the brain development, as what teens do or not do can affect them for the rest of their life. So these connections, it affect their decision making, their life connections for the rest of their lives. So بعد ما تتقلم هذه الروابط مهم جدا بنمو الدماغ، لأنه القصص اللي بيفعلها المراهقين أو اللي ما بيفعلوها هي ممكن تأثر عليهم لبقية حياتهم. Changes to the logic center of the brain also explain why teens sometimes make poor decisions. Sometimes they don't have this ability to think. They don't have this the deep thinking sometimes, because you notice you have this question like, why did he do that? You don't have to do that. He should think about it in another way. But these are the parts sometimes that the teens are not able to think about it in the other view that we as a parent, we see them. So هيدي التغيرات اللي بتفسر هيدي التغيرات اللي بتطرق على المركز المنطقي للدماغ، ليش المراهق ممكن ياخد قرارات أوقات سيئة. فنحن بنصير أوقات نقول إنه ليش ما فكر هيك، ليش ما أخذ هيك. لو نحن نعتبر كأهل أوعى شوي، مرئين بإكسبيرينسز أكتر، المراهق بعده عم بيمرق بهذا الشيء. So also, if we want to talk about taking risks and thrill-seeking behaviors, why they occur because the frontal lobes are not fully developed in teens. So higher level of certain neurotransmitters make teens more impulsive and likely to participate in risky behaviors. The teens, they are known that they love to try risky behaviors because sometimes they don't care. Sometimes they say like, okay, we want to try it, we'll see what will happen. So these, they affect also the cortex of the part of the brain that we were talking about in the teenagers. So المخاطرة والسلوكيات هودي بيصيروا لأنه بيكونوا عم يبحثوا عن عن الشيء اللي بدهم يجربوه. هيدا الشيء بعد ما بيكون بيكتمل عند دماغهم، يعني دماغهم منه واعي وكامل انه اوكي بدنا نجرب القصص الخطرة شو ممكن يصير. فالمستويات أعلى من بعض الناقلات العصبية بتجعل هود المراهقين يكونوا أكثر اندفاعا وبتخليهم بوضع محرج إنه يشاركوا هيدي السلوكيات اللي بتكون هي أوقات خطرة. So, coupled with a diminished control of logic and a higher influence of impulses, teens can be at risk for serious injuries. So, also this one affect the brain development. So, لجانب التضاؤل التحكم بالمنطق والتأثير العالي للدوافع، ممكن أن يكون المراهقين معرضين للخطر الإصابات الخطيرة أكثر. So sometimes also the teenagers we can't forget that their peer pressure, their friends, their school, all of them together as a teen group, they can affect each other. They can affect on their thinking towards each other. So in moments of high pressure, especially when around their friends, emotions can override logic. So let's say they are in a group of people. If he's the one who only say, no, I want to try it, and there's 10 of them that they want to try, especially, he will go and try it because he's the only one that he is against. So example includes a lot of things. For example, shoplifting. Even though the teens sometimes they have money, but they want to steal and they want to try. Driving drunk despite knowing the negative consequences. Sometimes you will be shocked, like, okay, you know the consequences, you know the danger of this thing, like why you are trying this thing. That's why, because the part of this brain, it's not mature yet, and that's why it's affecting, especially if there's a peer pressure. This is why how we call it in the moment of high pressure, how does affect their brain. They don't have time to think about it more, so they just go and try it. So بلحظات الإثارة العالية اللي نحن عم نحكي عنها، خاصة بس يكونوا أولادنا حول أصدقائهم بالمدرسة، غالبا العواطف تتجاوز المنطق. So من الأمثلة على ذلك إنه سرقة المتاجر مثلا، خاصة نحن إنه يمكن أوقات في كتير مراهقين بيكون معهم مصاري، بس روحوا ليش بتروحوا بتعملوا هذا الشيء؟ ليش عم بتجربوا هذا الشيء؟ لأنه هن رفقاته بدهم يجربون وعم بيعملوها. القيادة مثلا، سواقة السيارة بحال السكر، على الرغم إنه نحن بنعرف العواقب السلبية اللي ممكن تصير. هذا الشيء نحن عم نحكي عنه، وهو بيأثر على جزء من الدماغ اللي بعده بيتحكم بهيدي اللوجيكس والمنطق. So teens' brain are still developing when it comes to being able to think about other people feelings. So هيدي أدمغة المراهقين بتضل تتطور كمان، بس يتعلق الأمر بالقدرة على التفكير بمشاعر الآخرين. That's why if I'm not listening to my kid, I'm not listening to their feelings, communicating with them, they're not be able to communicate with me or feel me when I'm sad, for example. That's why I should be aware of my kid's feeling, my teenager feeling. Until the prefrontal cortex, it's the executive functioning, it develop, teen often have difficulty assessing and responding appropriately to the emotions of others, because sometimes it's hard for them to deal with these emotions towards the others, especially if they're not knowing how to deal with their own feelings. So حتى هذه المرحلة جزء من الدماغ اللي قلنا إنه هي بتأثر على الجبهة الأمامية عند المراهقين. فغالبا ما بيواجه المراهقون صعوبة بتقييم مشاعر الآخرين والاستجابة لها بشكل مناسب. So teens usually read the facial expressions of others differently than adults do. So you'll notice sometimes you're looking at your teens and you look like you're mad or angry or you're looking sad, but even though your teen, they're not understanding like what does this facial expression look like. They're not fully understand why you as a parent you're looking angry, and also without being clear about the thing that like why you are angry toward your teen. Just explain for them this look, and then you look sad and then they're just looking at you, they're not understanding anything. So your mission right now is to talk to them like you did this wrong. You have to talk to them, you have to tell them the reason. So this can lead to confusion and communication difficulties. It's hard for them sometimes to go through facial expressions. So that's why sometimes I say like talk about the problem, talk about the reasons, the consequences. Even it will take you 2, 3, 4 hours, but you have to show what's the point of it instead of just looking and you're not saying anything. So أو عادة المراهقين أوقات ممكن يواجهوا صعوبة بتعابير الوجه عند الأهل، وما بيقدروا يقروا هيدي التعابير مثل الأشخاص البالغين. ممكن أوقات المراهقين ما يفهموا إنه أمهم أو بيهم معصبين منهم أو هن هلأ غضبانين أو حزينين، ولكن ممكن هذا الشيء أوقات يكون مبين واضح عند الأهل إنه من خلال الطريقة والطريقة اللي أنا عم بتطلع فيها تبين إنه أنا معصب منك، بس المراهق ما حيفهمها. عشان هيك نحن يفضل إنه الأهل يحكوا مع المراهق عن الشيء اللي هو عمله غلط. احكي معه بقى، تاخد 3-4 ساعات معاه لحتى توضح له شو الفكرة وليش انت غلطت هون وليش انا معصب منك بهذا الشيء. لانه المراهق بهذا العمر بده حوار، بده حكي، مش حيفهم بس انه انا اقعد زقور فيه واطلع فيه وهو لازم يفهم من التطليعه. وهذا ممكن يؤدي لارتباك وصعوبات بالتواصل. Teens and sleep. We all know that especially the teenagers, they go through sleep problems, sleep regressions. So scientists has found that teens are in constant state of sleep deprivation. So the average that the teen needs about 9.5 hours of sleep a night, but they only get about 7 sometimes. So the chemicals that governs sleep doesn't kick in until around 10:30. So we know that there's a sleep hormone, happy hormone, dopamine. All of these hormones they start develop at night from 10:30 till 3 a.m. That's why it's so important that in this time your teens, your kids, your babies, they should be sleeping because this help the brain to develop more better. So نحن بنعرف كتير علاقة بين المراهقين والنوم. أوقات في مراهقين ما بيناموا منيح، في مراهقين بيناموا كتير، ولكن وجد العلماء إنه المراهقين بحالة دائمة من الحرمان من النوم. المراهق العادي بده حوالي من 9.5 ساعات من النوم بالليلة، ولكن هن بيحصلوا على حوالي 7 ساعات فقط، أوقات بيحصلوا على أقل. عشان هيك بيصير في عنا مشاكل أكتر. So المادة الكيميائية اللي بتتحكم بالنوم، وكمان في عنا مادة مثلا بالدوبامين اللي هي هرمون السعادة، هذا كله ببلش يتطور وينفرز من حوالي الساعة 10:30 بالليل. So عشان هيك ينصح بهذا الوقت إنه يكونوا الأولاد نايمين. So we all know the lack of sleep contributes to a lot of problems. They must have difficulty with grades in school because they're not having enough time for sleep and rest. Road accidents, especially if they're riding to their own car to schools or high schools. That's why also some schools have even moved the start time for school later in the day. It happened before, like from instead of 7, they start at 9, 8. So just to take more time to sleep. So ممكن كمان عادة قلة النوم بتساهم بأنه المراهق ممكن يواجه صعوبة بالحصول على درجات عالية بالمدرسة، بتأثر على التركيز، بتأثر على التفكير. حوادث سيارات، إذا مش نايم ممكن ينام ويغفل هو عم بيسوق. حتى أنه بعض المدارس نقلت وقت بدء المدرسة بوقت لاحق عشان بعد الأولاد يحصلوا على قسط كافي من النوم. So teens and activities. That's why it's important to always engage your teens in activities. Sometimes, like in winter it's hard, but in summer it's more flexible. So a lot of free time for teens is related to early sexual activity, drug use, drinking, delinquency. Sport clubs, volunteer efforts, and after school jobs are good for teens in moderation. So that's why we should, as a parents, put an effort, like don't let them be bored. Don't let them have a lot of time doing nothing. Let them be joined in after school activities, soccer activities, see what your kid's hobby is, your teenager hobbies is, and work on it. So let their time be full, because don't let them go to other side. We don't need that. التفكير الكثير من وقت الفراغ للمراهقين ممكن بيرتبط بين النشاط الجنسي المبكر، تعاطي المخدرات، ممكن يشربوا الجنوح. فعشان هيك بنحاول نحن إنه الرياضة والنوادي والجهود والتطوع والقصص الفالنتير ووظائف ما بعد المدرسة هي كثير جيدة للمراهقين، حتى يضل على طول وقتهم معبى، ولكن بنفس الوقت ما ننتبه إنه يكون معبى باعتدال، يعني ما يصير هذا الشيء يأثر عليهم تعب ويعمل ضغط أكتر. So also, it's your responsibility as a parent to help your teen find a balance between schools, activity, family time, and personal time, because for your teen, that's a lot for them. Like they need their school, they need their time, their friends, spending time with their family, with their siblings. So it's your responsibility to help them to balance these things. Like, okay, you are able to do all of them, but in specific time. So this is also go to time management and stress management, as we talked before. So لازم نحن نساعد أولادنا المراهقين على إيجاد توازن بين المدرسة والأنشطة والوقت العائلي والوقت الشخصي. Let them know like they can get self-care because they are important. They have to be more energetic to give other people. Take time for yourself, and then there's time for others also. We as a parent, we have the right to see you, to communicate with you, to spend more time with you. So that's how it affects your kid. So نحن لازم نفهم الولد انه انت في عندك وقت لإلك، لازم ترتاح، ولكن بنفس الوقت في وقت لإلنا، نحن لازم نقعد مع بعض كعائلة، نحكي مع بعض، نناقش مع بعض، نشوف القصص اللي عم بتصير. So while development during this time can be trying for both parents and teens, most teens make it into adulthood with only minor scratches. So التطور خلال هذا الوقت يمكن يكون محاولة لكل من الآباء والمراهقين. فمعظم المراهقين بيوصلوا لمرحلة البلوغ مع خدوش طفيفة فقط، يعني أو بعض من المشاكل. So the last thing as a parent is that help guide and support your teen, because you are as a parent, you are their first role model. So you are their back, even if your teen is not talking, but sometimes they need your help, they need your support, your experience, just sharing, communication. So it will allow them to practice using good decision making skills and will help them become healthy, happy adults in the future also. So نحن هون كأهل من واجبنا إنه نساعدهم، نوجه أولادنا المراهقين ودعمهم بما يسمح لهم تدرب على استخدام مهارات يصنعوا قرار جيد، يفكروا بشكل سليم، ويساعدهم إنه كمان يصيروا بالغين وسليمين وصحاء وسعداء وعندهم تطور إيجابي جيد للتعامل مع الحياة. So this was our presentation for today about brain development in children and teens. This one is our the Facebook, our website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok resources for LAHC.
Thank you, Salima. What an important presentation today. We had a few parents who were watching us, and I
Mm-hmm.
hope that they can share it with whoever you feel needs to hear this conversation about the development of the children's brain, all the way from toddlers all the way to teenagers,
Yep.
the different stages that they pass through. Um, what would you say a healthy lifestyle of a teenager, Salima? Can you describe to us a healthy lifestyle of a teenager? Sometimes I feel also some parents they overdo it. Like a teenager would be
Mm-hmm.
involved in like 4 or 5 activities, and it creates so much pressure.
Yeah.
Talking of which, there is a new bill that has been introduced to the Senate that calls for 5 mental health days for students in the year,
Yeah.
meaning that they can take 5 days off school personally and not marked as an attendance,
Apps.
as an absence against them, um, which tells you that just the school itself sometimes it can cause a little bit of pressure and stress on the students. So imagine add to that a whole bunch of activities, and they get really busy, and sometimes it's seen as something positive. How do we strike a balance?
Yeah, that's why I know I mentioned that in the presentation. Like some parents, they feel more stressed, like they wanna put them in their activities because they don't want to do bad things before. But that's why you should be balanced, because the most important thing, like talk to your kid what the activities they need. Like sometimes we put them in soccer, but they don't want to play soccer. They want to go drawing, for example. But this is not a point like to put them in all activities just to make their time full. And then the healthy lifestyle for a teenager is that, let's say, after they come back from school, just give them like time, 1 hour, 1 hour, and they have just to rest, because they have 8 hours they are at school, or whatever hours their brain is working. So even if they're sitting on a desk, but they're taking lessons, they're talking with their friends, with their teachers, so they're having a whole lecture. So that's why they should have time for themselves. After that, just take a small rest, eat their healthy dinner, then do their homework, let them go outside a little bit if they want to have their own time under your supervision, which is not wrong. Because sometimes as a parent we feel like more stressed, because we want our kids to be creative, we want our kids to be more smart, we want our kids to be the best. We don't look about their personality and what they need. The miscommunication between our kids, our teens, and parents, this is the most
Right.
important thing. Yeah, and sometimes the teens are going through a lot at schools, and they're not able to talk with their parents what they're going on. Sometimes we notice, like, okay, there's loss of interest. They wake up, they don't want to go to school. طب why you don't want to go? Just talk to them. That's why these 5 days free, they're not noticed, because they're being stressed and depressed, and there's a lot of things going on, and no one is knowing what is going on, that with the miscommunication thing.
Right. We also feel sometimes that boredom is not necessarily something that should be seen as negative or unproductive.
Yeah.
Sometimes boredom is just a situation where it creates the atmosphere for creativity to be born. You just have to be a little bit patient with
Yeah.
boredom, and it will move on from boredom to actual creativity.
Right, and because, for example, like you have a lot of kind of teens where they are hyper. Like you notice that they tried all of the activities, they tried all of them. Like they're bored because there's no any new things that they are creating, and then they're just stuck, and then they don't know what to do. So, which is not their fault, because the opportunities that they have sometimes it's not a lot, and they're not into every specific hobby that they are in.
Yeah, great. So thank you again, Salima. We're delayed a little bit today, rescheduled
Yeah,
the presentation, and thanks for being patient with us with that.
no problem.
And with that, we come to an end for our family engagement broadcast. Next week, we are not going to have a broadcast on Friday. It's a half a day for teachers and staff. and it will be the beginning of actually spring break,
Mm-hmm.
which will end on the last week of March, and we'll come back to school on April 1st. So April 1st will be the first day of school after uh, this March break. And then we'll see you again in more family engagement broadcasts and with LHC and Ms. Salima Hamoud. Till
Sure.
then, stay safe and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.